The bounty hunters... Sorry, I wasn't able to find the best way to end the chapter, so it's a little abrupt. As the door to the bridge opens, a deep rumbling voice is humming away happily, and Herika steps in. A quick scan shows a very large, dark-skinned human man slowly working a needle and thread through a hat he's putting together. "Hello, Miss Social Worker. Hopefully we're not going to have to hurt anyone to keep our little buddy around," the hat states as he continues sewing on the brim of his newest creation. "Considering he's happy here, fiercely protected and well-loved, I would be remiss in my duties if I did that," she says, and the large man nods. "Good to hear. Blue on blue is always an ugly thing." Blue on blue. Violence between allies. We and the Empire are on the same side. It would be a rotten shame to need to fight them. Friendly fire is an accident, but blue on blue is deliberate and far, far worse for it. The hat notes as he starts tying a tiny knot in the thread. He's double-stitched the brim on and is now going for the band with buckle and feathers. "I see. Tell me, what are you doing?" "Oh, this? Just a hobby. I make hats. I like them for souvenirs, buy some local material, and make a commemorative hat for our bigger or more interesting cases. So local herd beast leather, thread woven from local rushes, a buckle that was forged on world, and feathers from local birds. A hat of Mordenon. Cowboy style." Cowboy? A cultural touchstone in the United States. Frontiersmen from when their young country was developing. Some were criminals, others lawmen. But there was a great romantic legend to them, and a lot of Sally's mannerisms and choice of weapon reminded me of that. So even if she doesn't stay with us, this'll help me remember. The hat explains. "Does this ship often recruit?" "We do. We've got our eyes open for talent." The hat notes. "I see. Actually, I haven't gotten your name, mister," Herika asks, and he offers a hand to her. "Bongani Chalbalal, but a lot of people struggle with it, so just call me the Hat," he says with a smile. "There are worse nicknames. I am Herika Spindle." "A pleasure. So what do you think of our home?" "It's honestly rather empty." "Of course it is. This ship was designed originally to race in and potentially get the population of a space station or a fleet out of danger and get out alive. Then it was repurposed as a steadily more psychotic slaver vessel, which meant it was carrying a large load of horrifying cargo and the guards to keep them in line, and now a small team, and those they've gathered to their banner. So there is just so much room left over, even with all of us taking up a stupid amount of space compared to normal conditions. The ship isn't even big in the grand scheme of things, but by comparison to ships, people in what we prefer to have is just so small." The Hat says, "Do you think it bothers Slytherin?" "Maybe. He doesn't talk much about his life before he met us. Too horrible after he lost his family, and too painful from remembering the happy years. But I do understand the general idea. Big loving family in a smaller ship than this. He's used to living a lot more packed in." The Hat remarks. "Why do you note the time before you met him as the happy years?" Herika asks. "Well, there's a sort of innocent joy to childhood. One that even if we wipe away every trace of trauma and pain from his time with the chaining, he's not going to get it back. Even if every twinge of suffering is healed, he's seen evil, faced it, felt it, endured it. He knows it now. Even if it never happens again, he knows it's possible. That will be with him forever. No matter what kind of miracle we work, that's one we can't. If you could, would you?" Herika asks, and the Hat goes very, very still. "No, I would not. The only way I can imagine it happening is to send him into a healing coma without a band. I will never do that. He has been hurt, but wounds become central parts of the being. What happened is horrible, but that he has gotten through something horrible isn't a bad thing. And I'm trying to phrase this better, but it's coming out sounding almost evil, isn't it?" "No, not really. As terrible as it is, our scars do make us. And even if we can clear away the physical evidence, they're still there." "Right, and I just thought of a better way to put it. Slytherin is strong, but if we take away the trial that made him strong, he wouldn't be our tough little guy. He'd be someone else. So no, I won't take him away from himself any more than I'd take the happy memories of his family that makes him such a good kid to begin with either, the hat says, and Herika nods. Very well put. She compliments him, and he nods before reaching into a small bag and pulling out a bundle of feathers that are burnt orange with black tips. I get the feeling you're about to leave, but before you do, I'd like your opinion, the hat says as holds up the feathers to the hat. What do you think? 3-feather hat? 2-feather? Go for 3, she says in an amused tone, and he nods. All right, also, I'm going to have some leftover material. Enough for at least one more. Want a hat? The hat offers, and she huffs in amusement. I can't accept bribes, she says. Who's bribing? You're already doing what I want, and I'm just being friendly, the hat replies. Yes, but my actions are going to be reviewed, and even now my every word and everything I hear is being recorded and will be subject to review. So no bribes. Just words? No camera? That's considered a breach of privacy. A microphone, however, is considered perfectly legal. I've spent time in places with the opposite. You can record them visually all you want, but if there's even a whisper of audio, you need their consent. The Lablon Empire views spoken words and sound as publicly available as it travels freely. However, one's image is attached to one's person, so it is their private property. Recording it, therefore, can only be done with consent, she says, and the hat lets out an interested sound. She starts to turn and then turns back. Oh, before I forget, how often is Slytherin in here? A moderate amount of time. He has no official duties. So if he's up here, it's to be with people or learn about the ship a little more. So there's some time here, but it's because he can find someone in here at all times. Like how you found me in here now, the hat answers. He usually shows up if Pukey's up in his command chair, and more than once he's given the chair entirely, and Pukey will lean against it, so the kid's nice and comfy as Pukey keeps watch. That's nice of him. Has there been any emergencies when Slytherin is up here? Not yet, but we're treating it as inevitable. See those bars on the wall? If things start happening, then Slytherin is to slither over to them and hold on in case something like a gravity weapon goes off. This bridge is well protected, but a gravity weapon can bounce the crew pretty hard, and it gets him safely out of the way as well. Yes, the hat says. Does the ship often get into combat? Actually, no. It's only come under fire a total of 3 times since we took it. But the sheer amount of weapons on it probably has something to do with that. Not a lot of people want to deal with this kind of danger. It gets even better when they try to figure out the history of the vessel and realize that the ship used to be the chaining. Then the dawning horror as they learn that we took it from the lunatics. Reputations can be a fierce thing indeed. They can indeed. The hat agrees. All right, now I'm actually going this time unless there's something more. You're the professional. Is there more you need to know? No, I was told there are training rooms in the ship. Where can I find them? Down a level, they're all in that section, the hat says as he points down the hall a bit. That elevator is right between 2 of them. One a padded chamber for martial arts training, and the other a gun range. They'll be to your left and right respectively. Opposite the padded chamber is a weight room, and opposite the gun range is a room with practice dummies for melee weapon practice. Thank you. Have fun. Those rooms are always occupied, the hat bids her with a wave of his new hat, even as he starts selecting what color to make the band of the hat. Thank you again. Good day, Mr. Shalbalal. And good day to you too, the hat says with a genial smile. Also, if you see Mr. T.A., ask him if he wants a hat. Who is that? Samuel James, the other human that has African ancestry. He has darker skin like myself and a somewhat similar cast of features. His ancestors are from a different part of Africa, but still African, the hat says. Of course. Thank you for your time, Herika says as she then turns and leaves the room with a friendly wave from the hat, seeing her out. Are all of them this friendly? I'd expect a professional warrior to be at least a little aggressive. In a fight, they're plenty aggressive. But right now, he's at rest. He's relaxing. If you caught him half asleep and in bed, it would be much the same, Litha says. I see. That makes sense. Do all of them have some kind of hobby? Oh, yes. It's fairly amusing to catch them in the middle of their absurdity. Half the time, it's straight out of a comedy skit, Litha says as she opens the elevator, and they both move in. Litha needs to activate her shrinking device a little to fit in without crowding. So, how do you handle the differences of religion? I haven't seen much synthetic ascendancy iconography. Has there been friction? The men are mostly non-religious, but they're respectful, and they do see a lot of sense in the scriptures of my faith. But they don't fully agree. At least most of them don't. Bike, also known as Drakengal, has an implant to allow him to interface with nearby technology. You've met Gregory, Cindy, and Slithern. All of them agree with a fair amount of scripture, to say nothing of the Crimson Hewers on board that have their control implants, and some have several extras as well. All of it a synthetic ascendance. I should have expected the quick sermon from the priestess. Harika notes somewhat wryly. Oh, probably. So which way first? Is there anyone else nearby? Harika asks, and Letha tilts her head for a moment before nodding. Yes, actually. Mr. T and Sally are in the shooting range nearby, Letha says and indicates the direction. The door opening heralds the sounds of powerful bangs, followed by manic laughter. Okay, calm down, little lady. That little monster is still loaded and deadly. Set it down if you need to laugh that hard. Mr. T advises and the laughter dies off. Is it safe to enter? Unless someone's redefining stupid, the answer is always yes, Mr. T answers, and Harika enters. So you've arrived at another exciting part of the ship, Miss Social Worker. Welcome. And you are Mr. T then? She asks, scuttling up and holding out her hand, which he shakes in greeting. The human ritual is a very straightforward and simple one. Samuel Mr. T. James, at your service. Your friend the Hat has extra material and was wondering if you'd like one yourself. Oh, yes, I would. The man's just been getting better and better at making them. Hopefully it's not another 10-gallon monstrosity, but even those have their places. Good to hear. Now I have a few questions, not as much as his primary caregivers and Slithern himself had. But you do understand why, right? I do indeed. What do you need to know? We're currently in a part of the ship dedicated to training and weapon use. How often does Slithern avail himself of this? Daily, although if he has a weapon, he has someone there with him at all times. It's a rule on the ship, just in case something really unfortunate happens. There's always someone there to get you to medical help. Very good. And your relation with the young man in question? Well, nowhere near as close as he is to his father, but he's wonderful company and listens well to instruction. I like having him around, but he doesn't seek me out as much as some of the others. I guess I'm a little boring for him, Mr. T admits. Oh, so the giant alien strongman is boring for him? Wow, boy's got high standards. And who are you, madam? Harika asks. I'm Sally, a Mordenon native. I'm basically their local guide for as long as they're here with an invite to join, if I feel like it by the end. And will you? I will if my sister will. But she seems to have fallen in love with the ship and has abandoned me to play with all the guns and weapons and other cool machines, Sally says, tracing a non-existent tear down her cheek. I see. Have you any opinion of the young man? Dangerous little fella. At any time he can have a dozen different guns pointing at you, and y'all would never know it. I see. So are you frightened of him? If I gave him a reason to hurt me, he'd probably hurt me right proper in a hurry. So it's the smarter thing to do to not, Sally says. I mean, he's plenty cute, but seeing his dangerous little toy just vanish in front of me let me know he weren't one to underestimate. I see.